Hi, this is Ruth Royal from Youth Pledge for Employers, and I'm really pleased to be here today with Ed Griffiths, who's Head of Operations at Timber Services. Hi, Ed. Lovely to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
So, Ed, tell us a bit about Timber Services, what you do.
So, Timber Services is essentially a timber merchant based in King's Lynn, and Stowmarket. We've recently opened a branch there as well.
Brilliant.
So we sell timber for the majority of the time. Other times we're manufacturing things from timber for specific orders for people. And we've been doing that for the sort of last 23 years, really.
Wow.
So obviously specialise in timber, and we do sell other things as well, such as ironmongery and other things you might expect to buy at a timber merchants. But we try and avoid aggregates and things. So we really do try and keep specialist in, as a specialist in timber.
That is sort of really purist, isn't it? That, like, in terms of like what you're doing. What sort of things do you manufacture from timber? Is that like sheds, or is that?
We do a lot of fence panel manufacturing.
Right. Okay.
And special orders, as in sheets cut to certain sizes.
Right. Okay.
Save a lot of time on site for contractors, and also timbers cut just to specific sizes. So some of our people, they need to match in with an existing feature in a property, or those kinds of things, or fairings for roofs, like to allow for water runoff and things like that. So it keeps a few of us busy all of the time.
So, Ed, what sort of different jobs do people do at Timber Services? And I wonder, is it easier to pick that up, thinking almost about the different stages of how you kind of where people start on their journey as you as a customer, and the different skills that it takes to move people through?
Yeah, I mean, what we tend to do, there's two different avenues really that people tend to join the business. One, there's certain specialist activities that we do, which might be not necessarily in the shop. So, for example, an accountant, if we had an accountant joining the team, they would need to have a certain qualification. It may be that they come straight in with their qualification. But the other avenues would be joining the business at sort of ground level, meeting with customers on the counter, getting to know all of the different products that we sell, and dealing with customers. And then that takes you through to picking orders, and can sometimes be machining orders whilst the customer waits. And then they sort of tend to then steer in the direction of sales executive once they know the product, which can be a really good next step for somebody from the counter. And then really from there, it's looking forward into higher management positions as time goes on. So we are a fairly small team. There's only sort of 17 at head office, and then another 3 at our Stowmarket branch. But between us all, we have to cover all of those positions that it takes to run a business. So very much sort of my role is wearing a different hat every day, and even the director is still out loading lorries this morning, and very much a part of the day to day, which is, for me, makes the job very a sense of achievement at the end of the day, because you've achieved loads of little different things of different tasks, which is great.
And it must give you like sort of that variety as well through your day of different stuff happening.
I like to think I'm still quite young, and you want to be able to burn some energy when you're young. So to be able to go from sorting out a budget for a new branch to cutting some timber and just letting off some steam by filling racks and things, it's brilliant. It just works for me.
Oh, that's fantastic. For those people who are perhaps joining the business at a ground level, what sort of skills do they need when you recruit people in to sort of perhaps support on that kind of first level of like helping on the counter?
So really, it's very much you need to be able to work on your own steam. So once you've been given you know your overall responsibility of the job that you've got, it's very much about prioritising your workload, because we do like to give people a lot of freedom at Timber Services. And very much it's kind of they will plan their own days out, so to speak, but really good communication, and making sure that you're you have the ability to communicate the good things and the bad things, because not everything's always good.
Yeah.
And then very much negotiation with customers and making customers feel as welcome as you possibly can. But because we are a very tradey kind of shop, we have a 50-50 split of retail and trade. So when a tradesman comes in, the negotiations start. Nobody wants to pay what you're telling them first time. So for a young adult, or a 18-year-old, even 20-year-old, it's quite daunting to be talking to sort of a builder on the other side of the desk and thinking, this guy's trying his best to knock me down, and you've really got to stand on your own 2 feet, and you do soon get used to it, but it's not for everybody.
Yeah, I'm sure that's the case, and that so like you've sort of said, like being able to prioritize, work on your own initiative, good communications are important, but also that sort of slight resilience to be able to deal with people that are kind of like, I want this from you, and you're like, no. At times, knowing how far you can go.
We are very much we do recruit, like we know that the timber trade is getting older, if that makes sense. If you went out to recruit, a lot of the really skilled timber people with a timber related background are getting older and getting close to retirement. So our attitude is very much, we want people who are doers and have got enthusiasm and can express their enthusiasm through our shop counter. And then the rest of it, the knowledge and the skill set, like driving forklifts and things like that, we can give all of that to them, but we can't give them passion and that kind of thing. So if they can bring that, we can certainly give them the rest of what they need.
Oh, that's fantastic. So if they come with the energy and the enthusiasm and the commitment and those sort of hard skills, you're willing to train.
Absolutely, yeah.
What sort of those things you touched on, like forklift driving? Is there anything else, etc., in terms of like sort of specialist skills that people might need as part of being part of timber services?
Well, some people, there's a mixed group of guys here. Most of us can operate machinery, but you'll always get people who aren't quite as hands-on. But typically, within the first few weeks, they'd be operating a crosscut saw, a panel saw. If they show an interest, then we'd probably move them up to a band saw and get them the knowledge of that. But very much woodwork and machinery. And there are qualifications that we can put these guys through for that. But to begin with, it's very much an in-house training exercise. And then when they're ready, and we can get a group of them together, then we'll put them all through, and that gives you a sense of achievement that you're qualified in what you're doing, and that's a big plus point.
Oh, definitely. I think that makes you feel really good, doesn't it? Like knowing that that you've got a qualification, that like your skills are endorsed in that way, I think is really satisfying. It's really interesting to hear about sort of actually how many different things happen in your organisation, because you also mentioned that you've got people who perhaps support the business as well, like you mentioned like perhaps an accountant, etc. Is there like another side, like almost like an office side as well to what happens?
Yeah, so we've got currently we've got 3 lovely ladies upstairs who look after so there'll be sales ledger, purchase ledger, and then payroll, and sort of the HR side of things tends to fall on myself, which is good actually, because it keeps you in tune with the guys very much so. But in terms of the sort of the finance team, if you like, they keep us up to date with where the business is at financially, and that helps us a lot. It cuts out a lot of legwork for us. But also, the data they pull together gives us the opportunity to know when it's the right time to buy, because buying at the right time saves a business a lot of money.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'd never thought of that in terms of timber, but I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah, and then obviously buying at the right time and we've got great facilities here to store. So our stock levels very much fluctuate sort of between, anything between 500,000 and 1.5 million.
Wow.
But that will really, and that can change within the within 3 or 4 months. So it's one minute you kind of not wanting to buy because the price is wrong. The next minute you're buying as much as you possibly can, and trying to put a sale on and getting it out. So it is really exciting. It's a big game of chess, really.
Yeah. Oh, that's so interesting how in tune you are with with what's happening in the markets, as it were, around making sure that you're buying at the right time. And yeah, that's really fascinating. I'd never thought about that side of things. I think as well, it's interesting to hear about kind of the journey that people might come on as they, if they join you, they join the business at that ground level on the counter, then working their way through as they kind of build their skill levels. What was your journey, Ed, into your sort of current position?
So I've been with the business for 3 years.
Right.
I started off when I was 18. I finished my A levels.
Yeah.
Took on a job for a large landscape provider, doing work for local authorities, where I did tree work and
Okay.
horticulture and landscaping. At 24, I took the first junior manager's job,
Yeah.
which was a fairly smallish contract, but did have to move halfway across the country for it. So it was a big deal for me.
Gosh.
And then I got promoted up to a place in Shropshire, where I did South Staffs District Council, County Council, and Housing Association contract. And then I was forced to move back to Kings Lynn for a couple of different reasons, where I took on a job as head of grounds at Centre Parks.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then got decided after a couple of years to take on the head of accommodation role there as well.
Wow.
And then following that, I moved into a head of ops role at CGM, which was back to my roots within landscaping. So I had a couple of hundred guys there.
Wow.
And then met Paul, who's the director here, and really felt like me and him connected. And I said,
Yeah.
well, I'll go back into timber. So I sort of went from chopping trees down in my early 20s to selling timber. But it has made species and things very easy for me to pick up. And obviously, a lot of the materials we sell here are to the landscape trade. So luckily, pricing up a fence, for example, for me on the trade counter here is quite an easy thing, because I'm used to doing a bit of that back
Yeah.
in the old days. So yeah, no, it's good.
Oh, that's really interesting to hear your journey. And I think it's sometimes a really important message for people to hear that most people don't pick a job age 16 or 18 and go into that job and do that for the rest of their lives. Some people do, like doctors, etc. But actually for most of us, we do several different jobs, and our skills aggregate, our skills increase as we go, don't they? And we learn new things. And that's really interesting to hear about how you used all your skills to kind of to end up here at Timber Services.
Yeah.
If you were Ed, we've asked everybody this question, and sort of our note to end on. But if you were to go back and give young Ed a piece of careers advice, what do you think you'd tell yourself?
Oh, I think the best advice you can give yourself, I think, is always find a job that's within your comfort zone, that doesn't cause you an enormous amount of stress. Now, we all want to push ourselves, but we don't want to push ourselves too far, and try and make it as enjoyable as, do it in something that you can enjoy. I think very much for me, within this role, if it wasn't for having a partial part of the role being physical, I think that would be kind of the end of the
Yeah.
road for me. I have to have that hour a day to be able to physically do something, but I think really importantly as well, especially when you're just getting into work, is to enjoy it, because you're kind of setting out a stall for the rest of your life, and you need to get in the right frame of mind where waking up in the morning is automatic, and there's nothing that's going to really phase you. You don't want to be, you don't want to be going into work worrying about things. You want to be going into work to think, I'm enjoying it, and try your best to make a really good friend as quickly as you possibly can, because I think that at work, your colleagues are probably the best thing about any workplace, and that will definitely keep you on the right path. But I've done the whole working 7 days a week. I've done answering emails till 1 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night. And it's just finding the right work-life balance for yourself. But yeah, obviously it is hard. If you want to make a career out of anything, it's hard work. Yeah, that's a really difficult question to answer.
No, I think you answered that brilliantly, and I really like your reflection about that. Actually, try and do something where you can look forward to going in and enjoy it. So as you build those workplace behaviours about going to work as you start off in a career, that actually you're kind of ready for the rest of it if you start like that, aren't you? But
Yeah.
Ed, that is absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. It's been lovely to meet you.
No problem. Thanks very much.